Hello, everyone. This is Rev Peter Desmond Kelly. So, as you can see, I have gone from live to a pre recorded version of this broadcast, which was going to be and is now the Sacred Oath to Myself in 2020. Thank you very much. It's hosted by Hallelujah Inner Temple. Make your sacred oath for 2020 amid the coronavirus pandemic. And what is it that is making so many people stressed about what's going on right now? I think is that there's an uncertainty. And when people are feeling, when there's a big change like this, a disruption in people's regular routine, they end up being confused, anxious, any number of things that happen to them emotionally and psychologically, spiritually, physically as well, because they have all kinds of built up stress. And the strange thing is, though, even though there is this situation going on, the primary mechanism that seems to jump in is your survival mechanism, and that right now is what's going on with people. And as a result, they may not be completely aware of the feelings of anxiety, the feelings of stress. That'll happen, no doubt, as the lockdown goes on. It's been, well, anyway, for me, it's been since my wife and I, it's been since the 13th of March, because we live in a residence for seniors, even though I don't like to see myself as a senior yet. I'm quite healthy and active, as is my wife. In fact, we moved into this residence 9 years ago with the idea that it was only temporary until we find something else, but we're still here. And they decided on the 13th to lock us down. In other words, we can't go out. We aren't allowed to have visitors. And if we want to eat, we have to order either on the premises from their cafeteria or, as we've been doing, ordering out, but ordering out at the groceries has turned out to be quite difficult because there's so many people doing that. So as you know, many stories come in about how people are surviving. I thought it would be good also to have this type of program that I could deliver every Sunday. Now, when I say Reverend Peter Desmond Kelly, I became an ordained minister in 2016, and prior to that, I was a practicing psychologist, psychotherapist, and I've worked with many different cultures and cultural backgrounds, including the North American, Indian, Native Americans, and that has been so rich in what it's given me in terms of experience and learning skills, and I've always been open-minded to spiritual aspects of our life, and certainly in healing. But that's just to give you an idea. So when I say I'm an ordained minister, I received that in 2016 as a designation of the direction that I'm going. I'm moving away from being a pure, clinical psychologist into being more spiritual and, looking at the holistic. I've always considered myself holistic, but really practicing and embracing the whole concept of spiritual healing. I do shamanic rites and ceremonies and I also integrate that into my practice online. So I am available actually right now during this period of time. All my services that are listed on my page, Hallelujah Inner Temple on Facebook, you will see all the services are being offered for a donation only. In other words, not the regular fee, which you'll see there, but you can pay whatever you can, whatever you feel is appropriate for your circumstances and needs during the course of the pandemic. So that's available. Have a look under services on my Hallelujah Inner Temple page. And I'll just get to the main theme of this actual broadcast. You may have noticed that a lot of healers have been offering their services and having all kinds of ceremonies. In fact, this weekend, being that it was the 4th of April 2020, it signals in numerology anyway, 444, a portal to entering into a period where we can bring peace and love, and a lot of people are doing meditation and prayer to bring peace and love down to earth. And this is a time to reflect. Nature has a way of balancing the equation. So no matter what we as humans throw at her, she finds a way to bounce back. And I think that's what's happening with the coronavirus. She is equaling the equation by basically telling people to stop. Stop what you're doing. Reflect on the damage that you are creating in the world today, not only in terms of to each other, but also in terms of the actual earth, Mother Earth. There's so much going on, or there has been so much destruction in terms of animals, in terms of forests, in terms of the atmosphere, and of course global warming, unprecedented since the Industrial Revolution. So for the last 200 years, we've basically been destroying the planet at an unprecedented rate. So that's certainly an issue, and I'm not going to go into that in any detail. Today, the topic is Sacred Oath to Myself in 2020. And you can see that listed on the page. Clicking on it, there's 10 points. I came up with this in January of this year, and it started, I don't know, it just came out of nowhere. I think it was the 21st of January. And I think it basically came up as a result of the feeling that my identity was somehow being criticized. The person that I am, the person that I've developed over the years and worked hard to develop, was being criticized. And this seemed to be criticized on Facebook. It was even criticized by my neighbor, next door neighbor. I'm not going to name names, but this person knows who he is. And basically, it's the idea that anyone who has an education, who's gone on past high school and gone into university and obtained a degree, is of no value because they're indoctrinated. The term indoctrination is a very common term out there on Facebook and Facebook circles, and certainly anyone who's putting out the idea that anyone who's gone through university has been indoctrinated, in other words, brainwashed by the system, and therefore cannot really see and is therefore not awake. Okay, so that kind of pissed me off because, and the term research used to mean that you would be going through a very strong methodology to analyze and proceed with an analysis of data, usually done in some kind of experiment, or else it's very regulated or very precise investigation of valid material. This is usually conducted in university. I know I had to do that when I did my thesis. I had to do an experiment. We did all kinds of research and study on research methods and statistical analysis, etc., etc. I don't want to bore you with all that, but it was quite an intense period of time when we had to do all that research and study, real research. Okay, and when you come to the conclusion, you can base your conclusion on valid information because it's been validated through all kinds of statistical procedures. Nowadays, we find ourselves in the social media period of time in which everyone is using the term research so loosely it means nothing. Do your research. Go on all these different pages, YouTube, etc. And apparently if you do that, then you'll get valid information. Well, I'm sorry, that's not the case. So anyway, to make a long story short, basically I was upset with the idea that all the work I'd put in, the years of university and experience that I have, is being belittled not only by my neighbor, but by other people on Facebook, different Facebook groups, YouTube, you name it. So I said, to heck with this, and I started writing, and this is what I came up with. Number one, I refuse to be intimidated by insults originating from unintelligent sources. Now, what does that mean? I don't mean to insult anyone, but I have, when I say on my page that I am a graduate of Concordia, McGill, and I've done graduate studies, I consider that to be more at a higher level of study, in the sense that I've developed the ability to analyze data from an objective and also subjective point of view. And then number two, I am proud to have sacrificed time, money, and effort to obtain higher education. It kind of just follows from number one, in the sense that I am putting my foot down and saying, hey, I'm not going to be put down by other people who think just because they have the ability to feel things and use anecdotal stories, somehow that is superior to what I'm throwing out there and my background. Okay? And number three explains that. Critical thinking, scientific understanding, and respect for the mysteries of the unknown together allow me to discern truth from fallacy. There are those who think that just using their gut is enough to discern the truth. We have, for example, a president of the United States That's what he says all the time, and he says over and over, I know more than anyone. Okay, and his gut is telling him this, his gut is telling him that. I could go on and on talking about this. However, I think that if you use critical thinking, scientific understanding, and respect for the mysteries of the unknown together, all of those, you will be far better at discerning truth from fallacy. My opinion. Take it or leave it. Number 4, pointing out the fallacy of another person's argument is not disrespectful. Many people are so frightened to give an opinion. I notice that, give an honest opinion on Facebook or social media, YouTube, that they're going to be called a troll. I've been called a troll for giving an honest opinion, even though the person admitted that they agreed with me. Okay? So, giving your honest opinion, you have to be able to do that. Otherwise, you are cutting short your own spirit. You have your own independence, your heart, your mind, your spirit, your knowledge all together. The holistic embodiment of who you are. You have to be able to express that. And you have every right to express that. God has given you the right to express who you are as you make your way through this lifetime. It's not easy, but it's even more difficult if you take away your own right to express your feelings and your opinion on things. All right, so keep that in mind. Just because you have an opinion that's not popular doesn't mean you're a troll. You have a different way of looking at things. And isn't that what life is all about? We have to have variety in where people are coming from, right? Okay, so number 5, belief. I'm just wondering, did I give you number 4? Pointing out the fallacy? Yeah, okay. Number 5, belief is not the same thing as truth. Now let me explain myself here. Truth is often used as a word for faith. And to understand the truth, you must have faith. And belief is believing in some religious deity, for example, God, Jesus Christ, etc. And of course this is perpetrated in the Bible and in all the different religious institutions. And we can go outside of Christianity, we can go into the Judaism, we can go into Muslim, we can go into all these different faiths, Buddhism, and there's this kind of faith that this is the truth. Now, I'm not saying that your own truth has to be questioned here. I'm talking about some of the facts. For example, although they are proving a lot of the facts for many, many years, thousands of years, in fact, truth was based only on belief. Okay? All right, so there's many beliefs now out there which, great, continue to believe what you will, but don't confuse it with truth. Truth, in terms of the three-dimensional reality, can only be determined using, specific, detailed analysis, right? In a material sense. Now, when we go into fifth dimension, of course, many people are borrowing 3D physics to understand, quantum physics, for example. yet it has not yet been proven that this actual concept of quantum physics exists in the fifth dimension. All right? I mean, I don't want to destroy anyone's belief about this. It's only been proven in the third dimension. Anything that you talk about in terms of physics is something that is proven only in the third dimension. We don't have the measurements or the materials to measure the fifth dimension. The fifth dimension is a beautiful idea, all the different dimensions. It's a beautiful concept, and it brings into the spiritual realm a lot of material that people can create out there. And of course, we've got the artificial intelligence, the avatars, like Ishtar, have thousands of followers. But let us not confuse belief with truth. Just as you had for thousands of years a system of religion perpetrated by the Roman Catholic Church that many were blindly following for centuries, and that fell out of favor for people, and now they're just struggling to exist. Now people are flocking because people started to realize that it's not true, and especially when their leaders and priests and ministers were being caught doing things that were not correct, sexual abuse of different choir boys and what have you, and this became so much of an issue. I mean, there's this hypocrisy, and it's not, obviously this is not the truth. The truth is, when you're really connected with a higher self, is you are pure and you are loving and you are giving, and such abhorrent activities would not take place. Okay, so people have lost faith with the Roman Catholic Church for good reason. And then you have now these groups popping up everywhere on social media that are basically doing the same thing. They are asking you to have faith, for example, in the artificial intelligence, and Ishtar, for example, who is giving you these electronically modified voice descriptions, acting as if it's coming from the outside forces, or the Palladians, for example. And a lot of people are believing in this when there's no proof whatsoever. But do what you will. I believe that it's important to have a balance, okay? One foot on the earth, another hand up in the sky, another hand here on the heart, and the other foot maybe in the water. Okay, so balance. It's very important. Okay, so so much for belief. Now let's go on to number 6. And this might seem rather strange or in some way contradictory, but I'll explain. Number 6, I follow the teaching of Jesus not because I am religious, but because I am not. Wow, how can I say such a thing? And I probably would have been burned at the stake for having said such a blasphemous thing centuries ago. And no doubt there's many in the fundamentalist movement who would want me to be thrown somewhere. Okay, so basically what that means is that I believe that Jesus, as a human being, Jesus of Nazareth, lived, was a real person, okay? But he was also a very highly evolved spirit. And he had so many abilities, most of which he learned in the first 29 years of his life from other sources. He didn't just show up on earth with all these gifts. He learned them. Now, but he had a greater capacity, just as some people have an incredible capacity to play the piano. At 3 years old, they're playing a whole beautiful concerto piece of music without having learned anything. So obviously coming from previous experiences on earth. Sometimes though you have individuals who are brought here who have certain gifts, but they had to fine-tune them. They have very high-end gifts, they're very evolved. I think Jesus was, in this particular case, very highly evolved, obviously. The Catholic Church, however, I think really made a huge narrative about the story of Jesus and the crucifixion and the resurrection, etc. The important thing in order to get followers, that's what their agenda was. Jesus, though, himself was more interested in getting you, the individual, to connect directly with God. And he taught people how to do that, to pray, to speak directly to God, to put yourself into a state of peace and calm, relaxed feeling after and breathing very deeply, and to just put you in a state of peace and calm. Once you're able to do that and you're able to rise above all the noise and the chatter in your mind and elsewhere, you're more receptive to that connection to Source. Source, God, energy, Creator, Yahweh, Allah, all the same. Jehovah, all the same. Source is all the same. Universe, all the same. Let's not get caught up in semantics. God is all of these things and more. But in terms of Jesus, and I'll open my eyes, I can go just like that, I can go into another state. So what Jesus was meant to do here was to show people that you and I have the capacity to be Jesus-like. Talk about the Christ consciousness, which many people are embracing nowadays. It's basically that you are recognizing the Christ within you. Jesus was just a highly evolved example. He was able to do healings with his hands. He's able to conduct many miracles, levitation, some of which he learned through his various trips to India and Egypt and China. He picked up all of these methods of higher learning, and then came out when he was 30 to teach for 3 years. So I believe in Jesus and the teachings of Jesus, not because I am religious. I want to make that distinction because I think that, again, for me, I think there's way too much dogma, there's way too much misinformation and material that is taught in institutions and in the Bible, which is very, very much in dispute as far as the validity is concerned. And I don't want to get into that right now, but there's lots of scholars that have disputed the validity of the Bible. Not to say that there isn't something in the Bible that has truth, but a lot of it has been written and rewritten and mistranslated and deleted to the extent where it's hard to know what's true and what isn't. Okay, without going too much into that, let's go on to number 7. I reject all labels that try to categorize me as belonging to one group or another, because that automatically limits my freedom of expression. Well, I think it's pretty clear what that means. Nowadays, there's a tendency to put people into groups. And certainly you see that in politics. It's so much us against them. And there's all kinds of divisions created as a result. Which is not, I don't think, if we look to Jesus, what he was talking about. He wanted everyone to love each other. He wanted everyone to respect their neighbor as if they were themselves, okay? And to understand that we all are connected in one way or another to the source, just like a tree. The source being the actual stem, the bark, the roots coming from the source, and we are the branches, and each life, the leaves that fall off. Okay? Just like nature, the seasons are just like our life. And then you grow again, another life, another bunch of growth happening. The leaves fall off. And then you grow another one. Thousands and thousands of lives. Some of us are special. We come here only once or twice. I don't think I am one of those. I've been here many times, still trying to learn lessons that I never learned in the past. So what happens is that when you are categorized in one group, and people see you as, let's say, expressing an opinion that may differ somewhat from what the group that you're in usually endorses, then right away you're put into another group. Okay, it's like this black or white thinking. If you're white, then you have to have all of these values, and you speak only these types of words, you speak only this language, you wear only those kind of clothing, etc., etc. If you're black, you're also in the same way. You speak only certain things, you only believe in certain things, you dress only in certain things. Black or white thinking is usually considered unhealthy psychologically when people are like that. People who have a lot of the disorders described in the DSM-5 are usually having this type of a way of thinking, black or white. All right? Better to see the world in terms of the bell curve. You know, the bell curve, you have at either end the extreme, let's say, in terms of sexuality, just to bring up another controversial subject. So it's known that, if you look at the spirit, we have a spirit that is androgynous, right? Neither female or male. It has both characteristics. When we come on earth, however, we can be expressed in a number of ways. Mostly one or the other, right? And if you're thinking only in terms of black or white, you will think that we should only be male or female, okay? However, we know that that is not the case, right? We look at the bell curve, and where there may be in that central 66.6% a clearly delineated characteristic of one or the other, male or female. We know at the extreme end we have people that are really to the extent of being, extreme, heterosexual or homosexual, right? But there is a gradual kind of change. You don't just go either or, but many have different expressions. Some are using other ways to express the androgynous spirit. Some are expressing it through being both bisexual, some are transsexual, some like to dress as the opposite sex. Many different expressions. Does that make them right or wrong? No, it just is another expression of their androgynous spirit. Okay? And the physical plane on Earth allows for that expression. All right, so I brought in, another so many subjects that I can talk about, many of which may be controversial, but they're only controversial because people like to really hold on to their rigid beliefs, dogma, as if they're the only ones who have truth. And it's rigid and often leads to being bigoted and hateful, the very opposite of what Jesus was teaching. Funny, eh? We find in many of these institutions that call themselves religious, a lot of bigots, a lot of racism, a lot of hate. Think about that. All right, next, number 8. Mediocrity is not something I adhere to. That is, to me, one of the most important statements that you can make in terms of affirmation. If you only settle for the smallest thing in your life, you're selling yourself short. You're not feeding what your own spirit is here on earth to experience. So by all means, go all out and do what you can. That's really, I should have mentioned that earlier, but that's what led me to putting back the show Peter the Healer, Your Celestial Broadcaster, which I've been trying to put out there, but I've had too many technical problems for it to happen. But it will happen. I'm totally, determined to get this off the ground. So that's what got me going. This whole sacred oath to myself got me going and pushing and putting everything I can into the Hallelujah Inner Temple and the show Peter the Healer, Your Celestial Broadcaster. But it is a work in progress. And I saw a meme just last night, which I thought explained very well what that means. And that is to say, you can be a masterpiece, but also a work in progress. I love that. You can be a masterpiece, but at the same time, a work in progress. I don't think anything describes the process that I am going through right now. Recognizing that I have many gifts to give the world, but also that I can present myself, even though it's not 100% perfect, I can still go on the air and present myself. And that should be a lesson, I think, for everyone. Every one of us, every one of you has something that you can be proud of. You've been given gifts by God, by Source, that you can express, even if they're not 100% perfect. A work in progress, which is the way I like to say when I speak French. It's a work in progress. Only for me, it's been a long work in progress. As my wife will no doubt tell you, although she says I've made improvement. But we are our worst critics. Okay, number 9, I choose abundance of health, wealth, and happiness. An affirmation saying, okay, this is what I choose. I send that out to the universe. I am open to receiving health, wealth, and happiness. Clear and simple. You may have your own that you want. In fact, this whole list that I've made is designed not just for me, but for you to use as a model that you might want to say, okay, from 1 to 10, what are the statements or affirmations that I can make for myself for 2020? Especially now, people have half the population of the world are on some sort of lockdown or stay-at-home policy. So this is a good time to reflect and to ask yourself, okay, what is it that I want to do? How am I going to be after COVID-19 pandemic is over? I have a poster. I don't know if I can get to it now. I will try, but I put a poster up on my page a while ago, which, let me see if I can see it here. It's there somewhere. It's coming up. Here we go. Okay, what are you doing after COVID-19? You got this guy looking at a road sign. There's a path that goes left and there's a path that goes right. The path that goes left is the old life. Before COVID-19, life of uncertainty, debt, daily stress, no future, lack of meaning, lies, dogmatic religions, disillusionment, despair, greed, hate. You may not agree with that, but I think that most people agree that those are characteristics that are part of our life, the heritage since the Industrial Revolution and maybe longer. A lot of people are in debt, daily stress because of financial problems, no future, lack of meaning. That's been a big issue for many people. They wonder, why do they do this 9-to-5 job if it doesn't mean anything except to get the check at the end of the week or 2 weeks. It's all about just getting the money, okay? And of course, a lot of people are disillusioned. Their dogmatic religions don't seem to give people the meaning that they want in life. They're looking for more. They then become despair, full of despair. There's greed, there's hate, and pretty soon people are just walking around in a state of hopelessness. Now, on the other side, the sign says new life, and that's a path going up to the right. And that includes this is going after the COVID-19. What are you doing after? And of course, you want to be thinking now about what you're going to be doing after, even starting to do certain things. Okay, a new life of hope, joy, happiness, satisfaction, wealth, abundance, freedom of choice, spiritually awake, creative, peace, respect, gratitude, charity, kindness, love. And I write at the bottom, the choice is yours. Hallelujah, inner temple. So I hope that this gives you pause to reflect. At this time during the COVID-19, many people are really besides themselves, trying to figure out how they're going to survive. So they're in a survival mode, crisis mode, if you will. And so they might not have thought too much about what they're feeling, except they might feel the panic. They might feel the symptoms of shortness of breath. So I'm offering, one of the videos that I put out there has this, when I did a few years ago, spiritual hypnosis. It's really relaxing to the sounds of Native American music and drums. It asks you to go on a voyage, a journey on the back of an eagle that flies up into another realm and asks you to relax and enjoy. If it's not on my page now, it will be very shortly, so be on the lookout for that. And I also have other services available for donation only. You can pay by donation, whatever it is that you can afford or whatever your circumstances or needs are. We can talk about that. Send me a message. I will respond to you personally. At the top of the page, there's a link that allows you to click and send email. That goes to my own email address, and I will respond to you personally, and we can discuss your needs and how I can help you. I have a wealth of experience. There's some way or another I can help you. That's what I'm here to do, to help people. And I'm very proud and excited to offer my services at this critical time. Okay, going back to the sacred oath to myself in 2020, I choose abundance, health, wealth, and happiness was the last one, of course. Who doesn't? But you may have others you want to add to that. And finally, number 10, I am me, and therefore I am. There's no need to doubt yourself. You are, and that's it. You are, and therefore you am. You are. I am me, and therefore I am. A co-creator of manifestation happening in the here and now. As Edgar Tolle has written about and often quoted in his book, The Here and Now, The Earth Now, The Power of Now. It's all in the here and now, right now. What you decide to do, whether it's focusing on what you can do now, or worrying about the future, or having regrets of the past, it's all happening in the here and now. And you can have an awful lot that you can do right now to affect your future and also affect your perception of the past. Certainly if you have feelings of failure reflected to you in the present because of things that happened in the past, it's about what you're doing now that matters, not what happened in the past. That's over. So you can actually change your life around and have a totally different perspective. So I'm going to ask you to take the 10 points, study what I've written, and try to make some for yourself. And if you like, you can follow up, send me an email, and I'd be happy to work with you on anything that you may wish to focus on right now in your life, whether it has to do with coping with the pandemic or future goals or anything else. Have a look at my page, Hallelujah Inner Temple, my YouTube page as well, which is under Peter the Healer, your celestial broadcaster, where I will be inviting guests on my show to do all kinds of interviews and demonstrations of their skills and areas of expertise. So that's about it, folks. I'm very happy to have been able to give you this time, and God bless you and love you.